I bring you now to Twitter. Number 1 United States trend, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And number 3 is Kyle Rittenhouse. We'll get into that later, which is, it's a crazy day, I guess, all filled with all sorts of drama. But here's the actual big news from Red State. AOC wasn't even in the Capitol building during her near-death experience. This isn't just one story. All right, I mentioned this the other day. We ragged on the idea of the drama because the drama was AOC was like, yo, the Capitol thing happened and I was scared. And I went, okay, I get it. And then Michael Tracy was like, that's manipulation. And then the media picked this up and made the story about Michael Tracy tweeting at AOC. And then the Young Turks is like, oh, SmackDown. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. I don't care. The news about AOC telling a story and then some journalists criticizing her. So what? Well, the story today is actually substantially different. AOC now has 3 big lies. 1, that she feared for her life. This is the first thing she said. I was scared I was going to die that day. The next, Ted Cruz, you almost had me killed. And the third, I was terrified because the rioters were coming and, the cop was banging on my door and I don't know what was going on. And I was hiding. She wasn't even there. Now, she responded to this claim saying, that's a smear, taking advantage of people who don't understand the Capitol complex. So Jack Posobiec posted an image showing that the building she was in was across the street. It's not the same building.
But there's tunnels, Tim. There's tunnels. You don't know about the tunnels?
I know about the tunnels.
No, that was her response.
But they didn't go in the tunnels.
They're also connected through electricity, okay? And this thing called Wi-Fi and internet, I mean, they're all interconnected. So, I mean...
They could have came through the phones, jumped out, who knows? Now, look, I refrained for the most part from criticizing parts of her story the other day because I didn't want to get in the drama. One of the aspects of her story was that while she was hiding from the mob, apparently, she had her staffers in the lobby, to confront the mob for her. It's insane. They should all have been hiding.
White people to the front.
That's right. I don't even think the person was white. But no, more importantly, it just wasn't a true story.
Yeah.
It was, at best, in her case, a total embellishment that, okay, I get it. People, they did evacuate the building where her office is. And that was because there were concerns about maybe a bomb threat or something, but nothing to do with the rioters. And so she's telling the story of her pinned up against the wall, scared the rioters were coming. Tons of news outlets actually wrote that the rioters were storming the building. They didn't even fact check any of this. She wasn't even in the building.
Imagine the goal to understand that the country is so much in trouble, so divided. And what do you do in that moment? Look at me, I almost died and he almost killed me. I mean, that's absolutely insane. There's a meme going around with her, that famous photo of her at the border where she kind of kneels down and she's crying. And they kind of replaced it with her watching the TV of the Capitol riots. And that meme's going around viral right now. Because, again, you have to understand here, she also interjected. This is not that she just talked about it randomly offhand. She interjected when people were having a populist Reddit revolt on Wall Street with the Wall Street bets. She interjected that with this particular story, which we're learning is just absolutely nonsensical.
So ask yourself, was it spontaneous? Was it deliberate? Was it intended to bring attention back to the fact that there's been an insurrection and there's domestic terrorists? And she's getting out in front now, messaging for a rollout of counterinsurgency and counter domestic terrorism
and censorship
and censorship, all kinds of things. She has to keep the story alive, keep the emotion alive, to lay down some groundwork for legislation and action. Did you also happen to notice today that NPR and Reuters both running stories from Brennan saying that we need to take the lessons that we learned from battling insurgents in Iraq and Afghanistan and use those same tactics here against people in the United States?
NPR was running that story, interviewing a CIA agent that was a part of fighting counterinsurgency in the Middle East. And he's like, we need to do this. We need to go after Trump. It's crazy.
He literally said, this former CIA guy, to NPR, that we have to treat the people who follow Trump like ISIS or Al-Qaeda.
NPR, by the way, national public radio, not a national company. It's a private company.
Right. It's a nonprofit, I believe. Yeah. But they're now going to start bringing the war on terror home, domestic. Glenn Greenwald warned about it.
Of course.
And I love it. I love it. No. I'm saying I love the media scenario. You got to let me finish. I love that all of a sudden you now have these leftists who claim to be anti-authoritarian suckling the teat of the security state and cheering it on, cheering for 25,000 troops coming to D.C., cheering for a permanent green zone, barbed wire fences surrounding the Capitol, cheering for 5,000 National Guard permanently remaining in D.C., cheering for AOC as she manipulates and tells these hoax stories in order to generate the ability to swing public opinion, to generate the swing in public opinion to support more authoritarian lockdown.
The tactics that they learned in Iraq and Afghanistan to manage an insurgency are things like this. Hire local gangs to carry out assassinations. Use bribery and intense incentives. Use drone strikes in the middle of the night. Make people disappear.
We also have to understand this insane notion of an insurrection when the United States went there to their country. They're not insurrecting against anything. They're mad about guys coming into their country and then killing their people and then dropping drone bombs on them. So how dare you even call them insurrectionists? They're people who are fed up, who are wearing flip-flops, who don't even know where the United States is or even the concept of the United States, most of them.
You're talking about Afghanistan?
Yes. I mean, it's absolutely insane to understand, the situation in Afghanistan from my personal friends who are vets who are saying a lot of these guys don't even know anything about the United States. They don't even care about what we do. They just want to live their life, and most of them are goat herders.
I want to point out the United States is an insurrection against the British monarchy. Let that be remembered.
Started as so. But let me read the story from Red State. They say, Newsweek even claimed that AOC, they said this, Ocasio-Cortez said that rioters actually entered her office, forcing her to take refuge inside her bathroom after her legislative director, Geraldo Bonilla Chavez, told her to hide, run and hide. And so I run back into my office, Ocasio-Cortez said. I slam my door. There's another kind of like back area to my office, and I open it, and there's a closet in a bathroom, and I jump into my bathroom. It turns out, however, that wasn't true. They had to fact check and start retracting all this because it wasn't true. They say, as it turns out, however, my colleague Banshi reported earlier, AOC said in her Instagram drama that the person who came to her office was a Capitol Police officer. But she denigrated the officer who came to help, claiming he didn't feel right and that he was looking at her in all this anger and hostility. They go on to mention, but a few important things to note that seem to have been left out of the whole story. AOC wasn't even in the Capitol building where all the action was going down. If she was in her office, she was in the Cannon building, which is nearby, but a different building. But of course, many didn't get the logistics and just assumed that she was in the Capitol building. According to Rep. Nancy Mace, a Republican from South Carolina, who has an office in the same hall as AOC 2 doors away, there were never any rioters in their hall, so there was never any physical danger from the rioters coming in at any point. AOC tells this story, making it seem like the rioters are coming, taking advantage of the fact that people don't know where her office is, not in the Capitol building. And in response, we see this from her. She said, let me slow down. Jack Posobiec tweeted AOC. He tweeted the story. AOC wasn't in the building. AOC responds, this is the latest manipulative take on the right. They are manipulating the fact that most people don't know the layout of the Capitol complex. We were all on the Capitol complex. The attack wasn't just on the dome. The bombs Trump supporters planted surrounded our offices too. AOC took advantage of the fact that people didn't know. They didn't know when she said, oh, the rioters, and I was hiding in my office. Most people just assumed her office was in the Capitol building.
I did
She's
too.
so whole prideful. Why not?
Because she was telling this story about the riots and everything. I assumed that she was in this building. When it turns out it's not true and she was lying, she says we're the ones, or Jack Posobiec or the right are the ones manipulating. So here's what Jack Posobiec tweeted: a picture from Google Maps. Here's the U.S. Capitol building, and then you can see cross the street, and you have Katie Porter's office. And then you have that's in the Longworth House office building. Across the street from that is the Cannon House office building where AOC is. She was kitty corner to the Capitol building in a different building. They didn't go in the tunnels. They went into the Capitol building. When Jack pointed this out, AO said, what about the tunnels? They weren't in the tunnels. We know they weren't in the tunnels. That wasn't the news story. So it's a month later, and she comes out with another story. Mind you, conveniently around the time that people are staging an insurrection, I'm doing air quotes, against Wall Street, and totally shifts the narrative. And we get into some stupid drama news cycle where they're just like, oh, Michael Tracy's a journalist and he said some mean things about her. And then the day goes by and everyone's like, you guys realize that she doesn't work in the Capitol building, right? And then I didn't bother to look into the story. You know why? I didn't care to cover it.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's silly drama. So she was scared. Look, like I mentioned, AOC comes out and says I was scared. And I say, I respect that. Look, I'm not gonna look, Jack, you're 6'5" or whatever. If you told me that you weren't scared, I'd say sounds about right. And AOC's, like what, 5'7", and she's like she's no experience in this kind of situation. I say, okay, she's scared. Can we move on? What's the point?
Yeah, no use arguing whatsoever. But my question to you guys: do you think that she just spontaneously sat down and started weeping on Instagram? Or do you think that this was intentional?
I think she's a sociopath.
It's always intentional.
Well, this is the thing. This is not
Part of a larger agenda, I
This is what we have to remember. She also was photo-opped crying at a fence looking at an empty parking lot a couple months ago.
Yep.
That's very true.
So, I mean, the photo's very clear. It was at the immigration camps. There wasn't anything there. It was an empty parking lot, and she's weeping and crying, and those photos went viral, and there was big stories about this. And this is, again, rinse and repeat, use emotion in politics to skew anyone's rational thinking and critical thinking skills, which are out the door because we have a lady that's crying. We have to do our, what is it called? We have to white knight as best as we can and support her.
I love the meme where it's like a crudely drawn paintbrush meme, and it says, "Oh no, she's crying! Quick, burn the Constitution!"
Yes.
It's the only way.
When I say it's always intentional, what I mean is when you make internet videos, you're always doing it on purpose. You never like accidentally in your most vulnerable state get online and make an internet video.
True.
It's a process.
Yes, and we've seen a ton of YouTubers do this where they start filming themselves and they're like, "I'm just so sad and I needed to tell you all." It's like you turn the camera on and then started crying for the camera, like to
Breakup
film this video.
videos. They're
Right.
so annoying.
Yes.
AOC has really taken this new internet drama culture of reality TV, much like Trump did from terrestrial television, bringing it into politics. She's bringing the same kind of drama, garbage, nonsense reality TV from the internet into the political world, and it is gold. It is platinum.
I'm afraid it's driving her kind of crazy. I went through it as a YouTuber and then with the things you think they love you for, you want to do more of. And if you think they like you because you're crazy, you want to be crazier, and then you want to be crazier and like try and top yourself. And to see that in a politician is terrifying.
I think she knows what she's doing. I think she's a careerist. I think that's why I'm like, I don't care to talk about her telling her story. The fact that she's now Jussie Smolletted everybody, and we all just assumed she was in the Capitol building. That's huge.
Imagine if she went through what Rand Paul went through a couple days ago when he went through a Black Lives Matter protest.
Couple
and they were
weeks
screaming
ago.
Wait, Rand Paul. I was there. I saved him.
Yeah, man.
You saved
happened?
Rand Paul.
Yeah, Rand Paul at like 2:00 in the morning. I was out on the protest. It was the night of the Republican National Convention, and they didn't have any security out in the street. And I spent all night escorting people from the convention, from the White House, back to their hotels, guiding them around rioters and mobs and stuff. And as I was getting ready to leave, there was Rand Paul, and I went up to him. I'm like, "Dude, you can't be here." And we bought some time and space, and we finally got some cops over there.
He got attacked.
He got attacked.
He got attacked because they said, "Why won't you support Breonna Taylor?" when he's literally the guy who wrote the
Breonna Taylor bill.
Yep, he wrote it. But they assume like it's a Republican, get him.
Yeah.
It's like it's Rand Paul, dude. No, they don't like him. They don't care.
Yeah.
AOC comes out and talks about, the first criticism she got for the story from a lot of people was, I wonder what the people who lost family members during the Black Lives Matter riots are thinking right now when you're claiming that, you were scared for your life. But think about how despicable this is now. Not only are, look, I don't like these games where they're like, well, the Black Lives Matter, riots did all this damage, so you should be talking about them. I don't like that. You know why? They're different things. AOC is allowed to be like, yo, I was scared. It has nothing to do with what happened with Black Lives Matter. If you're mad that she didn't call it out, we can say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Like, I mean it sincerely. It's a horrible thing, and I'll get your back. My only request is just to pay attention to other people who feel similarly. I don't think it's a one-up game. But now I'm pissed. Because now it's not only does she defend, protests are supposed to make people uncomfortable. Not only does Kamala Harris bail out these rioters who burned down cities, literally got people killed. AOC now fabricates the story of what went down. I actually have one tweet where someone actually points out that AOC even changed her story day over day, where first she was saying that she didn't go to the extraction point because she was worried about the other Congress people. And I did a big segment about this on my main channel about how the Democrats are scared Republicans will kill them because AOC was saying, I'm worried about what they'll do to me. She was telling how, during the Capitol riots, I didn't want to go with the Republicans and be in the same place with them. Later, she's now saying that maybe she didn't get the extraction point information because the officer was withholding it. Like the story changed a month later. She is purposefully turning on her live stream and telling a sob story. My question is, you bring up a good point, Jack. Why is she bringing this up right now? It's been a month. And she goes, they're trying to tell me to move on. I'm not telling you to move on. I'm wondering why it is you purposefully chose to start a late night primetime live stream telling a fake story, exaggerating what went down and denigrating the cop who actually tried to save your life. If it was true that you were in the Capitol building, like everyone assumed, and maybe it's not her fault because people just assumed it, but that could be, it's a manipulation tactic to leave out key details to make people assume things. I don't know if she has the savvy to actually pull that off. Maybe she does.
I think she does. I think she's extremely cynical. I don't think people give her enough credit. I think we think she's silly and ditzy. I think she's incredibly cynical, and the fact that she brought in the race of the people who are being affected, like treating the cop like he was after her because her skin tone. That's something intense for when you're feeling super emotional.
If she's telling us this story about rioters coming to get her, it was bad enough she was insulting the cop who was risking his life to save her when another cop already lost his life. Now it turns out this cop was probably just walking through an empty building, and he probably knocked on the door, probably not even that bad, and said, "Oh, where is she? Oh, you can come out. Go to Kitty Porter's office."
What's up with the bombs? I heard about bombs surrounding.
Yeah, they were
complex.
pipe bombs, I guess,
Too,
right?
yeah.
Okay. She never said she was in the Capitol building, from what I know. So she didn't overtly lie to people. She just omitted information, assuming that people knew.
No. But now she's saying, when Jack Posobiec put out the story, she's like, this is misinformation. They don't understand the Capitol complex. She's trying to defend the idea that she was in the riot.
And the
at
mainstream
the
media
Capitol.
was running with the story. She was at the Capitol, many of them. And if you're in that position, you're supposed to fix them. You're supposed to correct them as the person who's telling the story so people don't assume.
But not only that, she may not have said I was in the Capitol building. She was telling a story about how the rioters were potentially coming for her and she was hiding from them.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't. They were across the street in a totally
But
different
she didn't
building.
know. It was just madness and chaos, so she didn't know where they were. Likely.
She knew they weren't in the building.
It's a
And when
month
you
later.
say, if you're at the Capitol complex, you're at the Capitol. Even if you're not in the Capitol building, you're still at the Capitol, is the way I think the phrase
It's irrelevant, bro.
Look, I wasn't at the Capitol building that day, but I was downtown. I was on Pennsylvania Avenue. I saw what was going on. I felt the energy. Dude, even I could tell that there was something off, right? There was energy in the air that wasn't usually there. And it was unsettling to me. And as I get into reports of the riots at Capitol, I was like, I'm not going down there. So I can understand if she was uncomfortable. I totally can. The lying, I even understand that. People embellish. She's on Instagram. She's just talking her heart and whatever. But the timing and why now? Why now at the same time as all this news about domestic counterintelligence or counterterrorism and battling insurgencies and doubling down on people being terrorist groups and insurgents and suppression of civil rights and coming after people and de-Trumpification? I think it's smokescreen. I think it's it's meant to get us to do this.
Like, why didn't she talk
to sit
about
around
Robin
and talk
Hood?
about it instead of like being more focused on what the CIA and the FBI and everybody are going to do.
But I disagree. We talked about this the other day. We're
Yeah.
literally talking about the CIA and the FBI
Yeah.
in this context and how it's dangerous that AOC's emotional story, which is fabricated, is a manipulation tactic that will allow the federal government to expand national security powers.
Yeah.
And shout out to Rashida Tlaib once again for being the one person that says we can't allow the government to expand their security powers on this. Meanwhile, AOC is the one who's fueling the fire to do it.
Do you think that signifies a crack in the squad?
You know, honestly, I look back at a lot of the news, and I don't know if Rashida Tlaib was always completely in alignment. More so that they were kind of fellow travelers in a sense, that their interests aligned for the time being. And I'm not gonna be able to pull up all of the other examples where I've been like, oh, that's interesting that Rashida Tlaib wasn't agreeing with AOC on this one. But notably, the omnibus spending bill. Rashida Tlaib voted against that, and so did Tulsi Gabbard. And I said, wow, that's really cool of Rashida Tlaib. That was the right move. More Republicans voted no on it. Tulsi Gabbard voted no on it. I wish, more people voted no on it.
What would be amazing is to have her on the show. So if anyone knows
Rashida?
her and has connections
it'd
to
be
Rashida Tlaib, please come down. Please message us. We would love to have you. And I think that would be an awesome, amazing, important
I've
conversation.
probably
that
said
would,
some very disparaging things about her in the past, like
Yeah.
very critical.
Even better.
I'm pretty milk.
We'll
as
be
my
fair
opinions.
like we are to everyone else, but she's obviously, providing a perspective that's very critically important. And for a wider audience to understand that, I think is critical right now.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.